So the best marriages are just like Bucky's. I don't know if you know this about me, but anyone who knows me knows I love me some Bucky's. And I was at Bucky's, as I often am, running down the interstate and found this beauty. I mean, bedazzled sweatshirt and a Bucky's. I mean, does it get any better than this? Well, yes, it does, friends. It gets better because when you find out why I love Bucky's and the parallels between Bucky's and good marriages, you're going to love Bucky's and maybe your marriage just as much as I do. First off, I love me some Bucky's. Well, besides the jerky bar, and quote me on this, get you some of that Bohemian garlic jerky next time you're in there. The sugar-free kind's the best. Besides the jerky bar, I love it because it's an overnight success. And here's what I mean by that. Bucky's just sprung onto the scene as popular about 2-3 years ago. But did you know that it has been in existence? It started in Texas in the 80s. That's right. It has taken 40 years for it to become an overnight success. And Bucky's is just like a good marriage in that way. See, a lot of people think that, they get into their marriage and everything's supposed to just click and, things are going to go just so. We got the 7-year itch and you got kids that come on the scene, et cetera, et cetera. But there's really something to be said for sticking with it. It's a stick-to-itness. It's a getting in there, doing what is needed at every stage of development. So I'm a business owner as, well as someone who's been married for a good long time, coming up on 30 years actually in 2026. So you got stages where you're just starting out. You got a great idea. You found you a partner. Y'all think y'all could really, do something special. You got a vision, you got a mission. And so you get out there and you start hawking your wares, right? And a couple people will buy, but once it really catches on, most folks realize they got to have a system. There's got to be the way that we get things done in, a replicable way to deal with, the day-to-day of delivery. And then when you start adding employees, just like when you start adding kids, you've got to adapt for, different types of personalities, making sure the right butt is in the right seat and making sure you're developing people. They've got that, trajectory of where to go. Then you iterate and reiterate. Finally, when you see, hey, you've got a pretty nice team, pretty decent processes, you get to scale. And that's exactly when Bucky's bursted on the scene, right? And the way that relates to marriage is like, I cannot tell you the number of people out of like just sheer curiosity, sheer awe, when they meet someone who's managed to stick with a marriage 20 years, 30 years, 40, 50, everybody's in awe. I mean, it's always the same question. Well, it's a different question I get as a divorce attorney, but the question is, what's your secret? How did you manage to do it? There's just this sense of respect that comes with it. What folks don't want to hear, just like folks don't want to hear when they find out about a business that's doing well. Or sometimes when we see someone, wow, that person's an overnight success. Like Jefferson Fisher's one that I actually love. This guy slogged at it as an attorney, developing his skills his entire life. If you read his book, he was learning conversational skills. He was learning how to have that next conversation. But bam, he's an overnight success. And everybody's like, wow, I wish I could just spring onto the scene. No good thing just springs onto the scene. No good marriage just happens. It takes coming together with a good idea, coming together with a good partner. It takes mission, vision, values, working those out, going through all the growing pains. It's having the financial difficulties, that inability to meet payroll and sticking through it. It's coming up with new ways to solve old problems. It's learning how to self-regulate. Any manager will tell you that's the key to success and dealing with people. And the same thing is true when you're a manager in your house, when you're managing your emotions with your spouse. Oh my gosh, help me out with the kids. I was listening to a buddy of mine talking this morning about his 15-year-old staying up late, getting up. And this child, first off, he had to get him out of bed. 15 years old, apparently doesn't have an alarm clock. Secondly, kid goes and he lays back down on the couch. So dad gets him up again off the couch. Next thing you know, the child is laying on the floor in his room in front of his dresser. And I don't know about you, but like to me, that type of stuff, dealing with that kind of stuff takes the patience of Job not to start hollering and yelling in like we all want to do when we're feeling frustrated. We can't do that in the workplace. Oftentimes we do it in the house, but it's those people who learn not to do it at the house, right, that genuinely make it through. You know, who you are at home is who you are. Longevity, sticking with it, becoming more of who you are and who you were meant to be at the house, that's a trick that we can take a page out of Bucky's with, because that's exactly what Bucky's did. It reimagined the gas station, right? They don't allow truckers. They got all kind of cool stuff at all times, and they're super duper welcoming. That's another thing that Bucky's has in common with great marriages. They're open. They're hospitable. They have people come in. And I'm going to tell you, the difference between a closed household and an open household is health. Because when you got all kind of mess going on in your house, meaning physical mess, arguments, problems with your kids, the first thing that marriages do, or people do at home, is shut down. Bucky's is open. In fact, it's open 24/7. You know, they don't know a stranger. They invite people in. There's always a little something for somebody whenever they come by. And, you know, I'll just tell you, it's not that I'm like needy or anything, but you know what? I love it when I walk in and everybody shouts hello. And, you know, when I'm coming by, I'm asked, do you need a hand? I also like a clean bathroom, by the way. So I will tell you, that's another thing. To have a home that's open, that's ready for hospitality, that extends hospitality because the place is healthy, the place is happy. And I don't mean by that there's no issues or problems, but those problems get resolved, that like people move toward one another, they press into one another for connection as opposed to avoiding conflict, and they genuinely keep things clean, if you know what I mean. That's something that Bucky's has in common with some of the best marriages. And finally, it's the value. The best marriages bring value to every person in it and every person that comes into connection with it. This is kind of an extension of that longevity and also that hospitality. But I mean, there's just real substance there. Nobody gets in a marriage and is able to stick within a marriage without learning a thing or two. I think that's part of why, if you really take the time and can get a little past some of the grumpiness and older people, that where we get these just wells of knowledge and wisdom. And if you really are able to sit down with a couple and look around, because I'm going to tell you, even people my age have a really hard time finding folks that are around them who have gotten married, stuck with the marriage, and who are willing to sit down and share. You know, I don't know if it's maybe because they're just plain not asked, but I will tell you, anytime that I meet someone who seems to have a functional marriage and I find out that they've got a few decades under their belt, I'm talking to them, and they always kind of say the same thing, is that you have to be, you know, a good forgiver. And what I mean by that is that, you know, people are going to hurt you. People are going to disappoint you. We are going to disappoint other people. It's inevitable. But we have to be willing to be the kind of person that can lay it down. I have a coffee cup at work. I have this great, awesome coffee cup now. I'm not sure I got it from Bucky's or not. It probably did. But I've got this coffee cup at work that says, let that go, you know, and that's what forgiveness really looks like. I heard a great forgiveness test the other day that I'm going to share with you that I've deployed in my own marriage. And what it says is, if you can't go and be around that person and interact with them like the thing that happened never happened. That's right. Forget it. Because sometimes people say, oh, I'm going to forgive, but I'm not going to forget. Well, let me tell you, if you don't forget it, if you can't remember when you forgot that, then you haven't forgiven. It really should be as far as the east is to the west when it comes to forgiveness. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be around a person on an ongoing basis, depending on what the thing is. Okay. But what I'm talking about is in the context of the marriage, there are going to be disappointments. There are going to be hurts. There are, you know, just things that happen. And I'm going to tell myself, since some of you viewers like to, you know, really dig in and give me a rash of crap for holding grudges, let me tell you, I'm an Olympic level grudge holder, at least I was. And my husband used to put my clothes in with his laundry and then throw them into the dryer and shrink them up. Now, I'm 6 feet tall. I have a really hard time finding pants that are long enough, sleeves that are long enough. And I'm going to tell you right now, we went round and round and round. And, you know, to this day, he hasn't done that. that man has not done, I'm going to tell you, he has not done this since, I don't know, our kids were little and they're all in their 20s plus now. But to this day, he comes and asks, does this go in the dryer? Does that not go in the dryer? That'd be something I could have easily held a grudge on. I cannot tell you the number of clothes that man destroyed earlier on, but I haven't thought about that. I don't think about that. I can't remember when I forgot it, but he repented, and I don't keep beating him up over it. Things happen. You got to let it go if you want to be with your friends. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're not willing to be a friend. And then don't expect other people to be a friend. If you're not willing to do that, then you don't want to be a good spouse. So don't expect to have one. Anyway, I hope that was helpful to you. Like me sharing my love of Bucky's. You may even be able to pick up one of these still. I didn't get it too long ago. It's really cute too because it's got a little extra long flap in the back, which is always a nice bonus for us ladies. But before I sign off here, I want to share with you something that I hope that if you never hear anything else out of my mouth, that you hear this. Jesus loves you. He loves us. He loves us so much that, he came, God, into this world and took it all the way to the mattresses, gave the ultimate sacrifice so that we could be in relationship with him, in relationship with one another. And I'm not saying when you believe on him and start to follow him that everything in your life is going to get better automatically, but it sure does make getting there easier. When you've got the creator of the whole universe living inside your heart, empowering your choices, actually showing you that you had choices you didn't know you had, it makes all the difference. Anyway, if this was helpful to you or entertaining, or you're just a Bucky lover like me, like, subscribe, and share.